The Grivan and Portpatrick Junction Railway was built in the years of 1872 to 1877. Consisting of over 60 miles of track, it was to act as a direct route from the Scottish city of Glasgow to the port of Stranraer. One of the features of the line is the Pinwherry Dip. In simple terms, trains passing Pinwherry, whether from the north or the south, travel downhill towards Pinwherry and uphill travelling away from it. In 1923, the London, Midland and Scottish Railways would take over the line after the Railways Act of 1921. In May of 1928, engine driver Thomas Robson was promoted from shunting and local goods work around Glasgow to work in the Stranraer freight service. He was shadowed while learning the gradients and restrictions of the line by driver William Scott until June 2nd, when he worked the line for the first time on his own. He was described as having a very good character and was considered an entirely reliable and satisfactory driver. On the 2nd of July 1928, driver Robson left Stranraer with a 6:25 goods train to Glasgow. The train consisted of 25 four-wheeled wagons, including a 20-ton brake van. This was being pulled by the locomotive Robson regularly used, an ex-Glasgow and South Western Railways 279 class number 17759, an 060 tender engine weighing 57 tons, also known as a Drummond pumper. Robson was accompanied by Thomas Rennick, a capable fireman who had worked with Robson before, but was unfamiliar with this line. The train travelled to Dunragit, where it picked up 5 more wagons, bringing up the total to 30. The train then stopped at Glenwilly at 8:12 to allow a passenger train that was running late to pass. It then arrived at Bar Hill to take on water, departing at 8:44 p.m, 3 minutes behind schedule. According to the train's guard, John Maul, the train followed the usual practice of leaving Bar Hill to Pinwherry, applying just enough steam to get the train moving, and then to shut off steam and allow gravity to take over. Everything was proceeding normally until the train was about halfway down the hill. This is where trains usually start to apply their brakes. But on this occasion, the guard did not notice any brakes being applied from the driver. Unable to communicate with the engine, all guard Moore could do was apply his van's brake, but the train continued to accelerate. As the train approached Pinwherry station, it blasted a prolonged whistle which lasted until they passed Pinwherry's signal box, exchanging tokens as they passed. Both the signalman and the station master were alarmed by its high speed. Pinwherry had a speed restriction of 15 miles an hour due to the tight reverse curves on its northern approach. The train was later calculated to be travelling at 36 miles an hour as it hit the first of these reverse curves. It derailed, ending up in a pile at the bottom of the low embankment. People arriving at the scene found the engine and the tender were upside down and half buried in the mud. Considerable difficulty was experienced extracting the footplate crew, but it was clear that they had both been killed instantly. Guard Maul was pulled from the wreck, badly shaken but otherwise unharmed. A report into the derailment by Colonel A.C. Trench was released in August of 1928. It was clear that excessive speed had caused the accident, but he could not say for certain whether or not the engine's brakes had ever been applied. In his conclusions, Trench wrote, "I can only think therefore that excessive speed was due to overconfidence leading to a misjudgment on the part of driver Robson. It seems probable that, wishing to make a good run up the severe gradient towards Pinmore, and perhaps to make up time, he was running to higher than booked speeds, and he forgot the severe curvature through Pinwherry and the speed restrictions at this point." An alternative theory was put forward by chronicler David Smith, who knew driver Robson personally but didn't believe he could be so careless. In his book, Legends of the Glasgow and South Western Railway in the LMS Days, he drew attention to the prolonged whistle and summarised that it was stuck open, writing, "Drummond whistles quite often did that. The spindle was high up near the roof of the cab, so the driver jumped up on his seat box to try and stop the whistle. The fireman probably jumped up too. The two exasperated men struggled with the wretched thing while it scored on, alarming the whole countryside. When they got it stopped, or maybe before, Robson got down to find he was well past his accustomed braking point, and that the speed was much higher than on previous runs. There was some sort of speed restriction at Pinwherry, but nobody had told him it was as severe as 15 miles per hour. Pinwherry was a dip. He may have been taught to go fast through the dip and to keep the couplings tight, so he let her go, feeling no apprehension. The tablet was exchanged and taken in. As he passed through the station, Robson opened up his regulator for the ensuing grade. That is what I believed happened. Locomotive number 17759 was recovered and repaired, working until 1933 when it was withdrawn and scrapped, a fate shared by all of its sister engines. The line running through Pinwherry is still operational to this day, but Pinwherry itself lost its station in 1965.